right, so the theme today, we're going to be talking about music technology, and the theme is staying ahead of the curve. So we all know that technology is constantly changing, and it's important if we want to be successful to at least be aware of what's going on so we can make the decision of, is this something we need to jump on board with, or at least need to know what's going on. So we have our panel of experts here going to share their expertise with us, and I'm just going to let them introduce themselves. Maybe you guys can just go down the line, just give a quick overview of maybe sort of what you've done and what you're doing now.
All right. My name is Brian DeLiza. I'm a recording engineer, produce a little bit. I co-own and work at a studio right down the street on Hyde and Eddy. A large format console and lots of fun stuff, and I've been doing it full time as a career for about 5 years now. Before that, I went to Full Sail, graduated recording arts. I've been making music as a hobby for as long as I can remember, starting in elementary school. Started with sequencers and MIDI and programming and all that. Pretty well versed in analog and digital systems and multiple genres of music. I work with a lot of rap, hip hop, and rock artists, a lot of local artists around the Bay Area. Work with some bigger acts. Right now I'm working with Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys, recording vocals, editing, mixing, and yeah, that's what I do.
My name is Rob Wright. I produce under the name Azrael Kennedy. I'm a producer and engineer. I've worked with various artists such as Ghostface, Rick Ross, Raphael Sadiq, Five Dog, a whole bunch of others. I co-own a studio on 6th and Bryant, where I've been there for about 3 years now.
My name is Michael Denton. I've been in the business quite a while. I have a studio for 35 years in the Bay Area, which is, I think, the longest running individually owned studio left in the Bay. Started doing music when I was young and forming out when I was 15, so I've done things like Bobby Brown, Whispers, En Vogue, Tupac, Digital Underground. I got 5 on it from the Loonies. All the last 7 records that E40's done, I mixed and mastered all of those as well. So Kirk the Jerk, just all the guys around the Bay for years. So I've either worked with them or done the records. So that's where that goes.
All right, thanks, guys. So I just want to start out with kind of some basics of technology, of what you guys are using now. You don't have to go super in depth of every single piece of gear and everything you're using, but maybe give us some idea of kind of what your workflow is right now, and just what your process is.
Totally. So as I mentioned, I co-own a studio, so I'm working in the same studio pretty much all the time, and I have kind of like a unique approach to like mixing that I've kind of just adopted over the years. I mix on a large format console, so we have an SSL 9000J, and the way I work is I have a lot of clients who are picky and just like to do recall, and over the years, like I've kind of realized that recall is like the downfall kind of to analog mixing and puts a lot of people off. So I've adopted a new workflow. What I do is I process everything pretty much analog, and then I print everything track by track off the mixer back into my DAW, which is Pro Tools, and then I kind of finalize my mixes from there. So kind of get the best of both worlds. I get a lot of hybrid or analog processing, so Empirical Labs, Universal Audio, Bricasti, Reverb, stuff like that, and then I get the benefit of recall of being able to hit open and have my entire mix there and do stuff like that. I also use a lot of plugins, and I'm huge on automating plugins. I use a lot of Wave stuff. I have pretty much everything Nomad Factory makes. I'm really big on their stuff. Universal Audio, got the UAD stuff. And then as far as front end for tracking, we have we have the console preamps, and then we have a lot of outboard preamps, some Neve-based stuff, Universal Audio, API. A lot of nice mics, U87, like Soundlux 251, Royers, stuff like that. So a lot of fun toys, but most just common stuff that you find in most big studios. So.
And actually, before we go on, I wanted to ask you too. I was looking on your website.
Mm-hmm.
There's some cool stuff with the MPC where you're like simulating some scratching.
Yeah, that was from like 2005.
Yeah, if you could maybe just talk for a minute of how you do that, because that was Pretty
Sure.
cool.
Yeah, that's an old video. That's when I used to use an MPC 2000 for most of my production. Nowadays I have a 4000, but I usually just use Pro Tools and live instruments. But what he was talking about, I took a bunch of scratch samples like stuff like that, and I just have a video where I was manipulating the pitch with the Q Link slider and just tapping it really fast. You can get like a really authentic scratching sound. So it's fun.
Most of my mixing is done in the box. I use Pro Tools. I have an HD system. I do have a decent amount of outboard gear, but seeing as I don't have like a console, like all my summing is in the box. So unless I'm basically trying to process just a single sound together or like a bus, all my mixing is pretty much done in the box. I have everything from like API pre's, Neve. Have an original Elam 251, C800G, just a bunch of gear. But other than that, my mixing is it's pretty easy. It's just in the box for the most part. So.
Yeah. I've done mixing all the way from doing the board and using the board as a 2-bus, which you can use the board as a 2-bus where you just bring your stems out of Pro Tools and bring it up on stereo channels and line it up that way, and then you don't have to use the automation on the board, but you still get that analog sound. I did a lot of testing on different systems as well too, working in different areas, and especially on the hip hop stuff, the analog suffers a little bit from dynamic range, where in the digital realm you don't quite have that, where you can get a little more flap out of the low end, and you can really create a 20 hertz signal that's really pushing the woofer inside the digital, even inside the box, a little more so than on the board. The board softens up a little bit when it gets a little lower and squeezes it just a touch. So a lot of the hip hop stuff I'm doing in the box. I'll do stuff, the Latin stuff that I'm working on, I'll do mixture on the board and inside the box, but I'll bring a lot of outboard gear as well, like TC6000. I'll run all the digital links through that, or the Eventides, and I can bring those in as extra, using them as like plugs, as well as going in and out of the board as I need it. I'm doing a lot of mixing and mastering, so I have 2 different systems to monitor in the studio. So I've mixed for years, so I know I can mix to get mastered as opposed to mix mastered, which is the new technology for most people that graduate is let's mix mastered. It doesn't work that way. You need to give the mix and let it get massaged a second time to really bring out the brilliance of it. So, and doing a lot of mixing and mastering myself, you can't kind of have an attitude about your work either, because, you might do 14 songs on a project and someone brings in a 15th song and you go, I'll make it sound like mine. No, I don't have that attitude about that. If that song's slapping and that song feels right, then I'll make my shit sound like that. So you got to give up, you shouldn't have an attitude about your music. The music is what's important, not you. So.
Okay, cool.